Hello, it's me again, Stuart DeVille, and we have an extra special double episode for you today that we recorded live at EGX. The first interview is hosted by myself. I'm talking to Ben about his game Squingle, and then second up we have our amazing host Gianni, and he'll be interviewing Matt and finding out more about their game Live by the Sword. Enjoy! Hello, my name is Stuart DeVille. You've met me before by now, or at least you should have done. And today I'm here with Ben and his game Squingle at EGX. Ben, tell us about your game.
It's a virtual reality puzzle game. You have to guide these revolving orbs through a series of increasingly complex, transcendent, iridescent cosmic mazes in 3D space. It's very much like a 3D puzzle game. There's puzzle elements to it, and you've got to be quite steady with your hand, and it's very iridescent and trippy sort of visual style. Yeah.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about like your development journey. Like how long has it taken you to get from your initial idea to here, and was there anything along the way that like was just stumping you for ages?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first idea was a few years ago, and I sort of came up with this sort of very basic concept, very basic prototype, and then built it out a bit more. People really enjoyed the sort of stuff. I've done loads of prototypes, so I guess you include all of those, and it goes back a long way, really. Lots of failed prototypes. But yeah, I mean, this one kind of stuck, and then I ended up having some furlough time during my job, so I could spend a whole year working on it, and from then just developed it out, and then that was about last July, and it came out on App Lab and Steam, and then it's been about a year of sort of dormancy, not really shouting about it too much, but now with pandemic's over, so events like this are coming back, so really happy to be at EGX, getting a bit more exposure, and we just launched a new feature today or yesterday, which is this new pass-through feature. So not many VR games have taken advantage of this pass-through feature yet, but yeah, we just launched that new feature. So it means that the people playing behind us, they can see the whole world, they can see the environment while they're playing these 3D puzzles.
Well, right, so they can actually see like people looking at them wearing the goggles, or is it like one of those? It is mapping out the space.
So it doesn't map out the space, but there's like the cameras that were originally designed just for doing the motion tracking, the technology, because it's like inside-out tracking on these headsets. That is just a black and white, slightly grainy video feed, but that passes through to the user so that as they turn around, they can see the environment around them, and that's and then the game is superimposed onto that, so it's a sort of mixed reality experience. And it's quite nice in an environment like this where you've got people walking around, because some people feel a bit insecure if they're like completely cut off from the world around them. Whereas this just allows them to see their friends and see everyone, and it's really nice, yeah.
So I've noticed, like you say, that everything has this iridescence to it, and I personally know the struggles of working with shaders. So tell us a little bit about your shaders.
I don't know how technical your audience is, but yeah, the shaders are probably what I spent, a big portion of the development time on. Like, obviously, this game is quite unique visually. It has these sort of iridescent, and it's also got refractive effects, so everything looks like glass bubbles almost. And yeah, to get that then optimized to work at 120 frames per second on the Quest 2 was a major bit of 3 months bit of work, and I had to rewrite everything and optimize everything. But yeah, I guess because I've got a physics background, maybe I'm in a good place to understand. Like, you have to understand a bit more about geometry and what is iridescence, how does it occur, and it's a stereoscopic effect. So you have to, even though it's like using multipass rendering, so it renders both eyes at once, it has to be able to render from two different perspectives on the eye. So it's a bit complicated to get that all working. And then the refractive part it looks like something that you could only do with like a ray tracing. But of course, the Quest 2, there's no way you're going to do ray trace like physics-based lighting like you can maybe in a PC VR game. So it uses some tricks to sort of simulate it without actually doing the calculations. So yeah.
And that only took you 3 months to figure out.
Well, no, it was that took ages, but then it was had the Steam version ready, which works well on the PC. But then stick it on Quest suddenly, and it's like chugging at 20 frames a second or something. So then from then to getting it to 120 frames per second on the Quest, visually identical, but took about 3 months to rewrite the shaders.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So you kind of already knew.
Yeah.
'Cause I was going to say 3 months to go from don't really know to look how gorgeous this is. Well, I mean, it's impressive either way because, like I say, I know from personal experience and just from doing lots of homework myself on shaders and how they work. And I've met a few people who are from our community who are really heavy into shaders. So that's why I kind of asked you a little bit more detail. What would you say has been your biggest struggle then throughout the development phase?
I think I don't know, nothing's particularly programming is always a struggle. You're always hitting some sort of problem. And I guess the joy of, if you don't enjoy coming into problems and solving those, then programming's not really for you. So because the whole thing is a struggle. And but no, there's nothing in particular. It's been a challenge. I think it's been more from the business side. That's been a bit of a wake-up call for me. I had no idea about the industry. I just make this game as a hobby kind of thing, and then you release it, and then you just expect people to download it, but that's not really how it works. So marketing has been a big lesson for me. That's been the biggest challenge and biggest struggle.
So with the marketing, obviously I've seen and spoke to your publisher. Say, how did that come about? How did you get the opportunity with your publisher?
I don't have a publisher.
Oh, is he not? Who's
he helps out with marketing. So he used to work for VR Focus, the news website, but then now he's doing marketing stuff. Kevin Joyce, yeah. So he's just been helping with marketing and getting publicity and doing the press releases and things like that. But yeah, it's all self-published really. So I just sort of pushed it out to, it's on App Lab at the moment, and been pushing it to festivals and doing everything really. Even the localization, I've got quite a lot of international friends, so just bring in some favors. It always takes them longer than they first anticipate, I think, but yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure why I thought he was your publisher. I think it's just the way that he was talking about it and everything. He's got the spiel down for being a publisher. Maybe that's his next foray. So how have you found the process of because if you're doing it all yourself, how have you found the process of getting here to EGX? How did you has it all been you doing it, talking to EGX to arrange coming here, and is it all being paid off your own back and stuff?
Yeah, it's all self-funded. I've just sort of been using my own money. I haven't got any external funding or anything, but Kevin's been really instrumental to I don't know, negotiate with the organisers about the booth and that kind of thing. So yeah, I haven't done any of that.
That's interesting because I know that the kind of the format for getting a booth here, when they send you the pack of how much everything costs. I mean, it's the same with most things, right? It's a bit of a shock to the system. Did you have to, if you're self-funded, did you have to plan for a while to put the money aside, or have you been fortunate enough that you were kind of already saving for a rainy day?
Yeah, I've been saving. I guess I don't know. I'm a computer vision and data science sort of engineer, and so so that pays all right. So I've been able to save some money, and then I was just living off that for a year, and it worked out. But to be honest, the whole budget, the amount of money I've spent on this game is probably less than £30,000 in total, including everything. It's not huge amounts of money. And then starting to pull in more cash. So from a business perspective, it's starting to be a bit buoyant, which is quite good. Quite happy about that. And then maybe some of that can be reinvested, like maybe we could do an event in abroad or something one day. That would be really fun. See where it leads us.
So what's the plan for Squingle? Like, once you've released this, have you got things like prototypes that you're already working on, or are you just like fully focused on this, and then when this is over, you'll figure out what you're going to do next?
Yeah, I mean, I think Squingle's been doing quite well. From like the media really enjoy it. Like we've had some great reviews. We haven't had a review less than 9 out of 10 so far. Rough Talk gave it 93%, and VR Game Critics 91%. And in terms of user reviews, we've got 51 user reviews, which isn't very much, but we've kind of been not very much visibility since launch. But if you take the average of those reviews, we've got the highest user rating of any Quest game on the entire Quest ecosystem at the moment, at least last time I checked. So I definitely want to keep pushing this a little bit further. We've just got this the new trailer which released a couple of days ago by Anna Byrne. They're like an amazing mixed reality trailer, VR people. We've got this new feature of the pass-through mode that people seem to really love. So I'm going to and I'm porting it now to like a number of other hardware manufacturers, and so we'll see more on much more hardware over the coming months. But yeah, I mean, at some point I do want to start doing prototyping for new concepts, and that'll probably start to sort of reveal itself a bit more next year. I've got a few ideas around using more like sound visualization and eye tracking, making use of the new hardware, new features, and to really do something that creates a new type of experience. Like I think Squingle does as well. It's something a bit different. Comes from someone, I don't really have so much of a game development background, so I think that shows in the game because it's sort of a lot of physics-based design and that kind of thing. So we'll see some of these shaders will probably come with me into the next project as well.
So obviously our audience has quite a large volume of developers trying to make it in the industry, and what would be your top tip for someone who's just starting out on their game development journey?
I think one of the biggest lessons for me was like, obviously there's in the population there's a huge range of people and abilities and tastes, and so it's very easy to get very blinkered into your own idea and think everyone's going to love it. But what you really need to do is go out and show it to people and watch them play it, and be very open to rejecting what you think is a great idea based on if people don't really gel with it or enjoy it. If people can't put it down, it's a good sign that you should continue. But don't go too far down the line before you do that science test. It's like a sociology test on your idea. And it's a wonderful, humbling experience to have people actually try your stuff. So that's one major piece of advice that I've learned.
Yeah, I've always found similar thing. Whenever I've had an idea, in my head instantly I'm like, oh, this is gold. Like I should definitely go forge ahead with this. Yeah. And then I'll talk to one person about it, and they're like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, And then you talk to like another person, they're like, well, maybe if you did like this instead. And if you're like, say, if you're savvy, you'll take that on board. And maybe it's changing the entire path of what you're doing, or maybe it's a little change. But yeah, definitely all that early, test early and often is what they say, isn't it? Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it for us for this little conversation with you. Thank you for talking with me today. Where can people find your game and find you online?
So you can go to squingle.com, or you can find us on social media at Squingle Studios. We're on App Lab, we're on Steam VR, we're on the Vive Flow. We are coming to other headsets. So if you've got a headset, it's going to probably come to you at some point soon. And we're currently priced, we just reduced the price on App Lab. It's now £7.95. So cheaper than lunch. So yeah.
Nice. Thanks again.
No worries.
Labrador Studios. Sorry? Labrador Studios. Yeah. Okay then. Hello, welcome to the Game Development Podcast. I'm here with Matt from Labrador Studios to talk about his new game, Live by the Sword, Tactics. Matt, tell us about yourself. Tell us about the game.
Yes, sir. So we are Labrador Studios. I am the co-founder and the creative director. The studio was founded 3 years ago in 2019, as well as the development of the game started at the same time. So our game is a tactical RPG, and the thing that makes us a bit different is that we have multiplayer. As you can see here, people are playing against their friends. So it's not just a total single player experience. You can build your team how you see fit, and you can play against each other. So as you can see today, we're showing off our Switch build for the first time and our PS4 build, PS5 build for the first time. We also have an Xbox build and a Steam build, as well as crossplay between all the systems.
Nice. I mean, that's a very comprehensive rundown. It feels like an elevator pitch that you've had to do a million times. Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, we've had a quick conversation before this about like what the history behind the game and how it's come about. Could you give us like a quick rundown, like timeline of what's gone into getting you to this point?
Yes, sir. So if you guys can remember the Beast from the East in 2018, the massive snowstorm, I was meant to go to uni that day, but instead, since the trains were closed down, I went to Acosta and I started writing the game.
Nice.
Yeah, I pulled out my phone. I was having my my vanilla latte, and I just started working on the game. So at the time, I was getting a degree in coding, game development, and so I wasn't that good yet, but I still wanted to play this game that I'd been working on. And so I originally prototyped it as a board game. So I had a 10 by 10 board created. I had 3D figures done, and I had little custom playing cards with all the abilities for the characters. And so me and my friends would meet up at the York Game Dev meetup at a pub, and we would play the game. Eventually, like I got it refined enough to where I was able to show my business partner. He really liked it, and we went into business together, and the rest is history. So, like, because of a snowstorm, I now have a company in a game. So you never know where life's going to take you.
That's see, I didn't know that before our chat, and that really sheds an interesting light on the journey towards reaching this kind of grid approach that it started out on tabletop. I've kind of dabbled very lightly in tabletop design. I think there's something to be said for the skills that it allows you to develop that can be translated into digital design. Can you talk about like maybe how those design processes differ, or how they're similar, or what you could draw from them in shifting to digital?
So the physical difference is you're able to iterate a lot quicker. So everything that we had was laminated, and so any of our numbers, I could be like, actually, this feels overpowered. This now does 3 instead of 6. This now does 1 instead of 7. As well as when you're in a physical space playing a game that you're going to turn digital, time seems to feel a bit different. So, for example, our medic was able to resurrect characters, and the games kept going longer and longer. And me and my friends were just like, I'm tired. I've been to the bathroom so many times. Like, I've eaten 2 sandwiches. Maybe we get rid of this ability. And so we were able to iterate a lot quickly. And then when we put it to code, we already knew what we wanted and what we liked. And it was just a lot easier. And then the way we did it, it's just variable adjusting, like within our code, just super simple. Our players are like, hey, Matt, I know that you really like this ability, but maybe tune it down or maybe buff it up a little bit. And through that whole process, it's come out to a really good product.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about like rapid iteration that's possible when you're working with pen and paper with tabletop components, where you can literally just scribble over something, tweak it, and immediately see how it feels. So that's a really great point, and I think a lot of times it feels just like it's not possible from a digital perspective, but if it is possible, it's valuable. I want to call back to a point you made earlier about how you went into business with your business partner, and how that impacted your journey, because essentially that's where you stopped from when you gave the quick rundown of how we got here. You were like, went into business, and then here we are. What happened in the like interim? You went into business together, and then out pops a game.
Yes, it's that easy. It really is that easy. Just say you want to make a game, and there it is. But no, the reality of it is, and so we started in June 2019. And so my business partner was providing funding, as well as like I was paying for stuff myself. And so for years, neither him or I took home a paycheck. We were just making sure that any of our employees or anybody that we hired, like a contractor-wise, was getting paid. And so for the first 6 months, it was just myself and one developer. We were just the only people on the team. We were using Humble Bundle assets for our visuals until we found the right visuals that we wanted that you can see here. Then we had all of our custom stuff made. So we did all the coding stuff first and then the art. I know there's a thread on Twitter that talks about how the art is done first. It's not. It's really not. And so after that, we then hired another developer at the start of 2020 around the start of COVID. And we've been expanding a little bit by a little bit. We hired our first full-time tester at the end of 2020. And then as well as a few months later, hiring Jack, who does all of our concept art, all of our marketing materials. And so now it's the five of us make up the full team. I have worked with some amazing contractors over the time. So shout out to John, our sprite artist, John Davies. Shout out to Erica, our composer and our sound effects. Incredible. Like they were fantastic to work with. They were able to teach me so much about a school of design that I had no musical background. I had no artistic background, but they were able to help me through it.
Well, I mean, I think that's a story that we see echoed a lot with indie devs, where they start off like really core tight team, and then when they need certain skill sets, they outsource contract and get those people in. You mentioned that you went to uni to do game development. Before that, had you had any game development experience?
No. So before that, I was an aircraft mechanic for 6 years in the Air Force. I worked on an aircraft known as the A-10, the Warthog. Exactly, yeah. If you know, you know. And through my traveling in the Air Force, I ended up able to visit England, and I just fell in love with it. And as soon as I got the chance, I applied to go to school after my time in the military, and I moved over to New York, and I've been here ever since. And one of the best decisions of my life.
Nice. I mean, it's always great to hear people fall in love with where you live. So, I was gonna ask a quick question about how transitioning from what is quite like a structured, regimented approach to your day to day, which I assume it was. You feel free to correct me. Into what is a lot more flexible indie development. Like, I'm not sure how you were approaching your work. Ultimately, you mentioned that you were working on it for 6 months, not getting paid. But what did your day-to-day look like over that period? Because I feel like a lot of early development, that's what people are struggling with. You know, getting that initial burst of productivity to deliver, a vertical slice or a working prototype that they can then push forward and bring to something bigger.
So what we did personally, what I would suggest, because it worked out so well, is spend maybe a month or two just to make a small demo, not even a full vertical slice, something that captures the soul of your game, to make sure it's fun, because you don't want to do that 6 months down the line and be like, oh, this isn't fun. Do that as soon as you can. It'll save you time. It'll save you money. It'll just save you a whole bunch of heartache. And so our day-to-day was essentially, so the developer I was working with, Mike, still on the team. He would essentially do the development. At the time, I was setting up our socials. I was writing the story. I was balancing the characters. I was working on like the back ends of like the Steam store, just getting all that set up. And so my schedule was a bit hectic, where Mike would work the traditional Monday to Friday. I would work also on Saturday and Sunday, because since it is my business, I'm more invested into it. And so it was okay for me to work on the weekends, something I would never ask him to do, because like crunch is bad. It's bad for your mental health. Mike has a family. Go be with your family, dude. Like I had the opportunity at that time in my life to do that extra overtime. It's worked out really well.
Yeah. Okay. As I've already said, I feel like that is something that a lot of devs experience, where you're wanting to do as much as you can to make it a reality.
Yes. So about that, do not feature creep yourself. Like the thing is to remember, when you're doing it yourself, you are your own boss. Like if you ever feel like you're in over your own head and you have too much to do, just stop. Just cut the fat and focus on the meat. That's all you got to do.
Did you have any moments in the development of your game where you had a feature that you really loved and were like, from the outset, it had been there, and you were like, actually, for the good of the game and for the good of whatever, this probably needs to be cut.
Yeah, so two things instantly come to mind. So in our game, whenever a character does an attack, the camera zooms in and it's like a cinematic and it's like, I shoot you with an arrow. We had that in all 4 directions, but now it's just left to right. The reason being is because if you have it in all 4 directions, you need sprite animations in all 4 directions. And sprite animations add up really quickly. And so we had to pull the plug once we realized that it just wasn't viable to have this for every character. So that's one thing we cut. I think that what we have now looks amazing, and it was probably good that we did that, but you do need to take heart and cut stuff. We also had a boss mode, so where you would fight like a Rougarou or a Cyclops or like a Terra Kraken, and I had all these designs and these characters, and I was like, so the Rougarou survived, the other 2 got cut. It's just sometimes you got to cut stuff so that the rest of it doesn't suffer.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that I've seen mentioned a million times, of just being willing to let go of something that isn't quite working. And particularly when you're testing on tabletop, that's a lot of what you're doing. You know, you're thinking of an amazing idea and you're like, let me just try it really quickly. And when you try it, it's not as amazing as you imagined. Yeah. I guess to round it off, you've already given some really great like tidbits, tips, tricks about your approach. How long did this take for development? Just so we have an idea.
Yes, sir. So started in June 2019. The first 6 months was working on development. Then we started doing art. So from January 2020, we developed the game until June 2021, and then we went into early access. We did early access for a year, and now we're coming out October 28th.
Okay. So around three years-ish. Yeah, three years-ish. A lot of lessons learned in that time, particularly coming from the ground up. Give us like a top level number one. What's your top tip?
Top life tip is be organized. Like, oh my God. Be organized. Keep all your documents together. Just keep everything. Like, running a business is hard. Making a game is hard. Don't be your own worst enemy. Don't lose your documents. Don't misplace stuff. Just have a nice, simple filing system, because I guarantee you're going to put a piece of paper away that you're going to need 9 months later, and you're going to want to be able to find it quickly.
I mean, being organized, top life tip in general. Well, I think we should call it there. But this is a great conversation, and you've given some really good insights into your journey from your military to EGX. So where can people find you? Where can people find the business? You said it's coming out October. Give us the rundown.
So you can find us at Twitter at Labrador Studio. I run that personally. So if you tweet, I'm going to get it. If I reply, it's going to be me replying to you. You can find the game on Steam, Live by the Sword Tactics. I'm very vocal and active in the forums. I sign all my posts. You can see them. I'd love to talk to everybody. Right now, the game is in an earlier build compared to the launch build, because we've been working on the launch build. Don't buy the game right now. Look, this is the director. Don't buy the game right now. Wait until it launches next month on October 28th. There'll be a discount. Buy the game then. I promise you. Like, as much as I want more of your money, wait until then. It'll be on discount. So we retail for £20. It'll probably be on sale for around £16.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. In that case, it was nice meeting you, and we'll call it there.